Hello and welcome to episode 9 of Andalusia Knits. My name is Jordan and this is a podcast where every few weeks I take you through what I'm currently knitting on, what I finished up knitting on in the recent past, and what my plans are for my future knitting. And I have a pretty packed show for you today. I've got 3 entire finished objects, which I think might be a record for this podcast, and a couple works in progress, and a few yarn acquisitions as well. I'm excited to talk about this one. It's a great day. It is finally temperature appropriate weather for the season. I'm finally in a hand knit sweater, I think, for the first time on the podcast. So yeah, it's going to be a good day. So let's get started with the finished objects. Alrighty, so before we get started with the first finished object, I want to take a minute and talk about what I'm wearing, because like I mentioned just a moment ago, I think this is the first time that it has actually been cool enough for me to wear a hand knit sweater on the podcast, so I'm really excited to get to show this one off. I've shown some of my sweaters in the past, just not wearing them before in episodes, but I don't believe that I have actually shown this one at all on the podcast. And it is probably my most worn. It's definitely the one that I wear out of the house the most. It is a set and sleeve that I knit bottom up and seam together. And I didn't use a pattern, but I did use the book Knitting in the Old Way, which is a book I've talked about several times on this podcast. It basically has like schematics and tips for all the different like major sweater construction styles. And so I knit just sort of like this like stripy thing up at the top and then just solid red down here at the bottom. And then on the cuffs as well, I did some striping. And I don't know if this website exists anymore. It was a very niche but very useful website for me. And it was a site that basically just like generates random stripe patterns for your knitting. So I knew that like I didn't want to do just like plain like equal width stripes or whatever. And so I just plugged in like to this website, hey, I've got like X number of rows to cover and I have 3 colors and I want the stripes to either be 1, 2, or 3 stitches tall. And from that, it just like generates just like a random assortment of like stripe lengths that fit your row count or whatever. And so yeah, I used that on the top and on the cuffs, and then everything else is basically just maroon. But yeah, that's what I'm wearing today. I love this thing. Like I said, gets a lot of wear, and it's one of my better fitting sweaters. And strangely enough, it's also one of the first sweaters I knit. This was probably maybe the 3rd one that I ever attempted. The 2nd one that was actually worthwhile. And yeah, this one, let's see, I knit this maybe, it's been several years, like 2022, 2023, sometime around there. It's held up great. It peels like crazy. It's wool of the Andes sport weight, which should not be a surprise to anyone if you've watched any of these episodes. But yeah, I love this thing, and I'm sick of talking about it, so let's move on to a more recent finished object that I have. And the first one that I want to show you today is my Contrary Motion wrap. I finally finished this beautiful wrap thingy here, and I've been calling it a wrap. It's kind of like maybe too big for a scarf, but I don't know, if you kind of give it just like one twist or something, it could kind of work like that. But I think it feels like it wants to be more of a stole, and I am just not a stole kind of person. I don't know. But I love this thing. It's so beautiful. I love these colors. This is Acadia from the Fiber Company, several colorways from them, which is a nice blend of wool and alpaca and silk. And it's got the silk, it's like those little bumpy noils or whatever, so it kind of gives it this nice like rustic sort of tweedy look to everything. And while I am mostly proud of this one, it does have a fatal flaw that I talked about last time and that I have not been able to fix. And now that I've done some more like thinking and investigating, I am not sure that I will ever be able to fix this. And so I'm not sure. I don't know. Like, I'm glad. I'm happy with the shawl, but I don't. In terms of like this as a design, I don't know where I go from here at this point. And so my issue is that in addition to these zigzag color stripes that you get through Intarsia, the fabric is also has this zigzag shape where it like moves in and out. and it's kind of hard to see, but like while one side of the fabric is moving out, the other side's moving in, and vice versa. So while the color stripes are zigzagging, the fabric itself is also zigzagging. But if you'll notice, like when I hold it up, you don't see any of that zigzagging because all of the little points roll over to the other side of the work, to the wrong side of the work. And at first, I thought maybe it was an issue of I had knit some of this in the previous episode and blocked it. And my first thought was like, well, maybe the part that I blocked, I just haven't blocked it aggressively enough. If I go back and like really stretch it out and make it pointier, maybe that will help everything keep its shape. And that did not help. And I think that the reason that is the case is because basically it's whenever the wrap is laying flat, like it's very easy to get everything all nice and like, I don't know if you can see it on here, but it's nice to like lay out the points and get them to stay where you want them to. But the moment that you like pick it up and those pointy bits like feel the force of gravity pulling down on them, that is the moment that they start to curl inward. And so like short of like of just laying this on a table and never touching it again, I don't know at this point if there is any way to not get these edges to curl in, because there just are so fewer stitches in this pointy area as opposed to like the main body of the shawl, that like it can't maintain the shape. It just wants to roll over, like I said, the moment that like you put any gravity on it. So that's kind of disappointing. So I don't know, like I had planned on like making this a design and like writing a pattern for it and everything. At this point, I'm gonna have to like think of something else to do, because I don't want to like design this and then have people be pissed off at me whenever the zigzag fabric curls over to the wrong side. So I'm gonna have to go back to the drawing board in terms of the design. But like I said, I love this thing. Like I'm not really sort of a wrap person. This might be too big of a scarf for my personal preference, but basically everybody I've showed this to, like no one has been nearly as been out of shape about the fact that that the edges curl over as I have. So this very well might end up as like a Christmas gift or something this year. If I can find a good home for it, and somebody that doesn't care about the zigzag points, because I would hate for this to go to waste. It's just too pretty, and like in the grand scheme of things, like if it curls over, that's fine. It'll just, instead of being a zigzaggy scarf, it'll just be a rectangular scarf. And that'll be okay. But this is my first finished object of the episode. This is the one, it's just so pretty. I can't stop looking at these colors. This great color scheme, terrible construction. I'm gonna have to go back to the drawing board. I don't know maybe if I did like less extreme points. So I did, normally like I did like 8 rows of like increases on the edge and then 8 rows of decreases on an edge to create these points. Maybe if I made those smaller and only did like 2 or 4 increases before I started doing the decreases, something like that might help. But at this point, I'm just going to be happy with the wrap and not worry about the design itself. That'll be okay. That's something for me to worry about in the new year. But yeah, that's my first finished object, which is the contrary motion wrap I designed. The next finished object I have to show you was a work in progress in the last episode, and that is this cute little green and white throw pillow that I've been working on. And so in the last episode, you saw a finished another pillow and baby blanket set that I had made for a baby shower. And I had so much fun just freehanding that pillow that I knew I wanted to do another one for myself. And so I had some Knit Picks Brava Baby DK yarn lying around, and I just whipped up another one of these things. And so basically what I did, it's all in garter stitch, and what I did was I knit 2 squares and then an additional like sort of button flap on one of those squares, and then I just sewed some buttons onto the underneath part, and you got the little pillow packet inside, and that's about it. It's very simple. I was worried. I didn't know how the buttons were going to work. I've never done any sort of like sewing on buttons before that first pillow. It was not nearly as difficult as I thought, and I'm getting better at it every time I have to do it. So this one I did in DK yarn instead of the bulky, and I think that was definitely the right way to go. It wasn't that there was anything wrong with the bulky weight pillow, but just something about this like finer gauge garter stitch that just feels so nice. Like I cannot stop touching this pillow. It's so comfy, so cozy. And the only thing that I didn't quite get right, or I didn't really notice until after the fact, was the on this button flap, these edges have a tendency to want to curl up on themselves. And it's something to do with the decreases that I did, and the fact that they go down all the way to the bind off edge. And so you'll see in the works in progress, I have yet another one of these pillows that I'm working on, and that I have solved this problem by, after doing some decreases for the final few rows, I just knit plain and don't do any additional decreases, and that has prevented this curling issue that I'm getting here. But really, it's not a big deal. It's just kind of one of those annoying things that, like, since I'm the one that made it, like, I'm constantly noticing it, but no one else is. But yeah, so this is my little pillow. It's been through a lot already. It's held up pretty well. So like me and my boyfriend, we're not like decorative throw pillow kind of people. Like if there's like pillows on the couch, we're gonna like use them to like lay around on and stuff. And so probably not even 30 minutes after I finished this thing last week, I come into the living room and he fully has it like folded in half and like shoved behind him and like laying on it, and which I want the things I knit to be used, but I was a little scared about how well this yarn would hold up to like actual wear and tear, heavy wear and tear, but it's been pretty good. It is a low pill yarn, which I am noticing doesn't mean like no low pill is not no pill. And the way that it gets around the pilling, I think, is the fact, I don't know if you can see on here, let me push. There is like a very fine, thin halo across the entire surface of this thing. And if you pull at it, the fibers just like pull off effortlessly. And so I could be entirely wrong. I haven't done any actual research on this, but I think like one of the ways that like they're making it low pill is by making the fibers just like slough off way more easily, so that they don't have the opportunity to like bunch together. And so that's a cool idea. Like I said, it is kind of creating this very faint halo across the entire like surface of the pillow. But in terms of like actual pilling, like we've been using this for like a week or so, and I haven't seen anything on it yet. Definitely gonna have to buy a new pillow insert for this though. Though I just bought a cheapo one at Hobby Lobby, and like it was like $5, and within the first couple of days, like it went from being like super duper puffed out to like being flat as a pancake at this point. So I might have to actually invest in a decent like pillow to get this to fill out like I want it to. But very pleased with this, and like I mentioned a little while ago, you're gonna see this again. I got another one on the needles for the works in progress section. But yeah, really pleased with this. Love this thing. Can't believe that I have been on such a home goods, non like clothing or clothing accessories kick recently, but it's strangely been a lot of fun to do some projects like this. So my third and final finished object today, you have not actually seen. I started and completed it between the time from the last episode to this episode, kind of on a whim and kind of because I needed a specific thing like right then and there. And so what I knit, let's see if I can pull this thing up, is this giant basket that I have been keeping my knit sweaters in. Let me actually remove them so I can kind of show you more of what the shape of the basket is at rest. So if any of you have ever tried to knit any sort of like bag or basket, you have quickly learned, like I have, that like it doesn't matter like how thick and how dense the yarn is, like you're never going to create a stiff structured fabric. It's always going to be loose and floppy. But for my purposes, that was fine. Like I don't want to actually use this as a bag. I want something to keep my sweaters in when I have them out for the season. So basically, during the warmer months, I put all of my knitwear into like plastic bags, and then those go in more plastic bags, and those go in plastic tubs, just trying to keep everything like protected and safe from moths and other pests. when I'm not wearing anything. But like during the cooler months where like I have the sweaters and stuff out on a regular basis, and I'm not as worried about like moths getting to them because they're constantly being, they're being moved, they're being high traffic areas of the house. I'm not like just like shoving them in the back of the closet and not touching them for months at a time. And so I wanted somewhere where I could store them that wasn't just like putting them back in the tub. I wanted something more convenient than having to like dig in the back of the closet through the tub. And so I just created this little basket that I plopped down in my closet and threw all my sweaters in. And this was actually as as basic as this looks, and as my tendency to not use patterns. This was actually a pattern project. This was, and of course I am completely blanking. It's a free Yarnspirations pattern. I'm pretty sure I got it from their website. It's called like Ombre Basket. It's the most descriptive, like boring sort of like project or pattern name you can think of. But yeah, it's Yarnspirations Ombre Basket, something Ombre Basket, I believe. But it should be easy to find. Like I said, I got on their website. I'm sure it's on Ravelry as well. It takes 3 strands of worsted weight yarn held together, which I had never done before. And oh boy, that was really, really rough on my hands. It was super nice that I got this entire giant thing knit in like the span of like a couple days. I timed myself. It took me probably like 12 to 15 hours, I think, to finish this thing. But it was like I worked on it exclusively. I powered through it in just a couple days. But oh my god, my hands were so tired because I had never worked with like yarn that thick before. I think like 3 strands of, they said on the pattern, 3 strands of worsted weight equals like a super bulky yarn, which if I've ever worked with, it was like very early in my knitting life. It's been years since I've worked with anything like that. So that was rough, but then it's also rough because despite the fact that it's 3 strands of worsted, you're only knitting it on a size 11 needle, which like objectively is gigantic, but when it's like relative to the size of 3 strands of worsted weight yarn, like it's teeny tiny. It creates this is a very like thick, dense fabric. And like every knitting session after I was done, like my hands were just aching in ways that they have never ached before. And so while this is very useful, I've gotten a lot of use out of this so far. And I'd love to knit another smaller version for my accessories, like my hats and socks, because I have the same problem with that. I don't want to have to like keep digging in the back of my closet through this plastic tub for my knitwear every time I want it. So I'd like to knit a smaller version for my accessories, but I'm gonna probably wait until the beginning of the year to do that because it was just, I could not believe like how painful this was on my hands. But mostly happy with it. I did sort of this marled sort of ombre thing that wasn't, in the pattern, it's not this sort of ombre, like each of these like ridges, can you see like when it's separated out, each of these ridges would be a different color and they would transition from one to another. But instead of doing that, like I held sometimes I would hold 3 strands of the same color together, and then as I was transitioning through colors, I would start holding like 1 strand of one color and 2 strands of another, and then 2 strands of that color and 1 strand of the original, and whatever, as I made my way through the different colors. And so I was going for sort of this green gradient. I didn't do a great job at like picking good shades of green. You can see like the bottom has this really kind of gross like brown poop sort of green that I'm not thrilled with. I didn't really like think about like cool greens versus warm greens or anything like that. I just sort of went light, medium, dark, darkest. And didn't put much thought beyond that. And so yeah, I ended up kind of with some questionable marling combinations here on the bottom. But for the most of you don't really see that at all. For the body of the basket, it's a lot nicer. I like this marling effect. I've never done any sort of like shifting thing like that. And you can see probably too that I have yet to weave in a single end on this thing. And considering the fact that I already have the sweaters stored in here, there's a good chance that I am never going to weave these ends in because like you're just simply not going to see them. Like when the sweaters are in the basket, like no one's going to know. And like even if they do know, who cares? This is a storage basket in my closet. Normally I'm very like finicky and diligent about weaving in ends, but there was just something like I just could not be bothered. Like it's just, there's just no good reason. Like no one, like I said, no one is going to see, and even if they do, like who cares? Why are you creeping around in my closet in the first place? But yeah, so this is my third finished object of the week, the Yarnspirations Ombre Basket. I think that's what I'm going to call it for this. I will put the actual like link and the correct name of the pattern in the description below. But yeah, this is a really fun knit. If you want something fast, it's a great option. If you are prone to hand pain when knitting, though, I don't know if I could in good conscience recommend it, because like I said, I am not someone who is prone to hand pain when knitting, and that all changed the moment I started working on this thing. But anyways, love this thing. Love my new little storage solution for my sweaters. Now we're moving into my works in progress for this episode. And this first one, I'm just going to kind of breeze through pretty quickly. I mentioned it earlier when I was talking about my pillow in the finished object section. And I have started just another one of these pillows. This one is also in Brava Baby DK from Knit Picks. And the one thing I did want to point out, I talked about it just a little bit in the earlier section, and that is just like on this button flap thing here, instead of taking the decreases all the way down to the bind off edge, I stopped doing decreases after I did the second buttonholes, and it's kind of hard to see in this dark navy yarn. And then, so anyways, after the buttonholes, I just went to plain knitting for a little bit, and that seems to have resolved the curling up issue I was having. Hopefully that remains the case, though, when I actually get this seam together. Which seaming is all I have left to do on this thing. I have both parts of it completed, and so now basically what I will do is I will match up the cast on edges, and I will do, I don't know, so I started doing this seaming thing on the first pillow, and I'm sure there's like a name for this technique. I don't know if this is whip stitch or what, but you know, like how a cast on edge has sort of like this line of like stockinette looking V's. Basically, I just like stick my needle through underneath one of those V's and then through the other V, and then I come back on that same side and go through again, and then back to the first side again, and just sort of like weave my way side to side through each of these cast on edges, and it creates this nice little ridge on the bottom, which on my first pillow that was in bulky weight yarn, it was really kind of unwieldy and way too big of a ridge. But in this DK weight yarn, I really like how it looks like on purpose, and it feels very like reinforced and structural, but it's not just like sticking up like an inch like it was on the bigger pillow. So yeah, anyways, on this work in progress, all I got to do is seam everything together. And the sides, I just do basic mattress stitch. And then I've got to, I need to buy, actually, I'm out of buttons. I need to buy some buttons and attach them, and this will be ready. And this one, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. My mother-in-law, she has a birthday coming up soon, and we were over at her house for Thanksgiving this weekend. And I was looking around, and both her living room and her patio furniture like sort of have a blue thing going on. And in fact, like in her living room, a lot of the fabric on her couches and stuff is very similar to this light blue. So this might be a birthday present for her. It's one of those things, just like a random throw pillow. That's kind of an odd birthday present. I mean, I would be happy with it. Like as someone who knits, like if someone knit me a throw pillow, I'd be happy with it. I don't know. That's just kind of like a weird thing to like get when you're not expecting it. So it might just be one of those things where I buy her a real birthday present, and I'm like, oh, by the way, feel free to say no. I also have this pillow, that I think would go with your stuff if you wanted to. But yeah, I haven't decided, I haven't set anything in stone about what I'm going to do with this. But yeah, hopefully this one makes it out of the house, because if I knit many more of these, we are going to be overrun by pillows. So last up in the works in progress section is finally a project that I talked about in my last plan section that I actually followed through with and started working on. And that is a new hat design that is incorporating some stranded color work and some two color traveling twisted stitches. And so let me let's see if I can get, I'm knitting this on a 16-inch needle, and I have a giant head, so it's really, all these stitches are very packed together. I'm trying to like stretch some of this fabric out without losing any stitches off the needle so you can see the design. So basically what I'm doing is these stranded colorwork diamonds across the hat, but along the edges of each diamond you can see these stitches are leaning horizontally. That is where I'm doing the two colored traveling twisted stitch, or the left twist and right twist. I'm still not entirely sure like on the terminology for these, but it's basically like the 1x1 cables where you knit, you do a decrease, and then with the stitches still on the needle you knit one of the stitches again, and that basically like reorients the stitches and also makes one of the stitches lean to the left or the right depending on which way you decrease them. And so I've been working on this for the last week or so, and once again I don't hate like the product I'm getting. I'm sorry if you could hear my cat screaming at my feet right now. He's got some things to say about this hat. It's sort of like the contrary motion wrap. I don't hate like the finished object I'm getting, but I don't know how I feel about this from a design perspective, because I'm finding doing the two color traveling twisted stitches, I'm finding those really annoying to have to do over and over again every single round. And it's one of those things like, if I'm finding it annoying and I'm the guy that came up with the idea, then I imagine like people who like bought the pattern would find it annoying as well. And I don't know if like annoying, I don't know if that is enough of a problem to like warrant like giving up on this as a design. But I'm gonna have to do some more thinking. Right now, my thought is maybe the annoying part is the fact that I am knitting this on a tiny needle, like all my stitches are really scrunched up, so I'm constantly having to like readjust to make sure that like all the stitches are stretched out when I'm running the floats and things. So that could be the issue. So I might try this like on DPNs or some other sort of technique for knitting this as opposed to a small circular. And I am knitting, this is DK weight yarn, and I'm knitting it on a size 2 needle, which is that's generally like where I like to live, you know, when I'm working with DK weight yarn. But maybe this might be a scenario where like going up to like a 3 or a 4 might be worth it if it just makes everything feel a little less like tight and tense and cramped. So once again, I'm happy with the results I'm getting. I like the sort of like self-striping effect I'm getting with the variegated yarn here. Oh, and this is Knitpicks Swish DK. That's their superwash yarn. And so this is just like plain gray, and then they have like these like variegated versions. I believe that line is called Swish Pops, and this one is Soul specifically. All of the names for the Pops line are like different genres of music, and I'm pretty sure I bought Soul, but don't quote me on that. But I really love these, just like the sort of like aqua blues and greens coupled with the whites and the navy blues. It's just really worked out well. I was a little suspicious when I bought the yarn on the website. I did not, the reason I bought the yarn was morbid curiosity, because I absolutely hated like the designs they were getting when they were knitting up the variegated yarn into swatches. And so I wanted to see like, is it really going to be that bad when I actually use it? And no, it's not. It's not nearly as bad. It is creating some like striping, but like I said, it doesn't look like it's not perfect across every diamond, but it looks consistent enough that I'm pleased with the results. But yeah, this is another one where I'm gonna just have to kind of do some more thinking. I don't guess soul searching. I almost said I'm gonna have to do some soul searching about this design. I don't think it's that serious, but I'm gonna have to think about like, okay, this is kind of an annoying technique to do. What are some things, not necessarily like what are some corners I can cut, but what are some like design elements that I can loosen my tight death grip slightly and not worry about as much, just to make the annoying part as like least annoying as possible. So this one is another one. Hopefully I have this finished up by the next episode. I really should. But I don't know in terms of the design, like what's going to become of it in the future. This is another one that I'm going to have to do some thinking about. Now it is time to talk about a few acquisitions that I've made in the last couple weeks. And these are kind of interesting. They run the gamut from like fancy and nice to not so fancy and nice. And I'll start with some of the not so fancy and nice stuff first and get it out of the way. And so, for those of us in the United States, we are just coming off the Thanksgiving and Black Friday weekend. And so, I wanted to go to my local Michael's and see if they had any sales or anything going on. And I'd actually not been to our Michael's since Joann's closed and Michael's like bought all of their yarn lines or whatever. So, I was interested to see. See what was new in terms of yarn, and I didn't have high hopes because the Michaels closest to me like has never really been like a big yarn heavy store. Like they have like maybe like half an aisle. That was what they had before Joann's closed and all that, and they bought all those yarn lines. So I was like skeptical, but I was like hopeful that I would find some new stuff there. And they definitely have expanded in terms of quantity. They've gone from like half an aisle to like maybe like 2 or 3 aisles of yarn at this point. Most of the new stuff they brought in, I'm not particularly like interested in, or like it's a lot of like worsted acrylics and bulky chenille blanket yarns, and there's nothing wrong with those, but like I don't need. There's like multiple like worsted acrylic brands now. Like why do you need? I don't understand. Why do you need like loops and thread and big twist? So anyways, I was not like the new yarns. I was not like super thrilled with, but I was very thrilled to find that some yarns that I do like from them that they had prior to the Joann's acquisition, they were much more well stocked. And so I bought some Patton's Croy self-striping sock yarn today. I've knit socks for several years at this point, but I have never actually done any sort of self-striping yarn. And it was buy two, get one free. And so I thought that this was the perfect opportunity to try out some self-striping. And so I got a few colorways. I got this one, which is, where is the name? I literally just saw it. This is turquoise stripes. And we have blue raspberry. This one I'm really excited about. And this one, which I feel like I see all the time. This is like an iconic colorway in terms of like Patton's Croy socks for me. Gray brown marl. And I bought 2 of each of these colorways because I wasn't sure how much yarn I would actually need to knit socks, because while socks are normally in this yarn is also socks are normally knit in fingering weight yarn. I knit my socks at a fingering weight gauge, but in sport weight yarn. And so I wasn't sure, like, based on like how big my foot is and how tall I generally like my socks to be. I wasn't sure how much I would need. I didn't know if I could get could you even get 2 pairs of socks out of this, or is it meant to be like one sock per skating thing? Anyways, I bought 2 of each colorway just to be safe, because I've never done any sort of self-striping thing. And I think for my first go around with self-striping socks, I have a lot of perfectionist tendencies, which I imagine will want to be activated by the sort of self-striping nature of this. And so I think for the first pair, I just want to have fun. I'm not trying to like make 2 identically striped socks. I'm just going to start knitting one, and when I'm done with one, I'm going to start knitting the other. And they're in the same colorways. They're going to be close enough that it's obvious they are a part of a set, even if they're not perfectly aligned in terms of stripe length and stripe count and all that. And then from there, I'll get more and more neurotic about how precise I want my stripes to fall. So yeah, that was my first sort of like low class acquisition. And I have another one. I got another big box store purchase. Hobby Lobby finally got me. I see this, they have like a very small but consistent like selection of superwash hand-dyed yarns, and normally I ignore them because it kind of has a like sort of halo. I don't know if you can see it in the skein, but it has sort of like a fuzz that doesn't bode well for how nice it would hold up. But I just could not say no to this colorway. This is so beautiful. This is hibiscus palm, and it's just sort of this like tropical rainbow sort of tonal shifting yarn, I guess. Oh, it's just so beautiful. I'm not sure what I want to do with this yet because I don't know if these color changes are happening so frequently that I don't know if I could do like any sort of like lace work or anything like that. I think the colors might be too busy to really let that shine. But I'm getting more and more experience like doing variegated yarns for like stranded color work and stuff. So I'll definitely find something for this. I just don't have anything in mind. Like I said, like I just could not, when I saw this colorway, I bought 3 or 4 skeins of this stuff. I just could not say no to these like beautiful reds and this like turquoise and even the yellows. I'm not a super duper big yellow fan, but like I really like this mixed in with like the sort of like black undertones and stuff. I don't know. This is just they did it right. They finally did it right. Like most of the time their hand-dyed yarns are like very like a lot of like white yarn with like speckled stuff, and I don't really care about that. But the color shifting, like very saturated, vibrant colors shifting from one another, like I just cannot say no to this. I love this stuff, and I am very excited to knit with it, even though I'm not sure what it's gonna make. Like I said, I've held off on buying this their hand-dyed yarns at Hobby Lobby because I just I don't know, like there's just something about the yarn that doesn't inspire confidence in its durability. But at this point, like I have enough experience with superwash yarn that I don't care what the tag says, I'm never gonna put this in the washer. I'm never gonna put superwash yarn in the washer, much less the dryer. So I think like hand washing, I think that might help with some of the durability issues as well. But we'll see. I imagine too, this is going to bleed like crazy. I'm going to just throw an entire box of color catchers in the water every time I have to block this stuff. But even with all the potential downfalls, I'm just so excited about these colors. This is going to be great. It's going to be great. Okay, so one more acquisition, and this is a little bit of a change of pace in terms of sourcing and colorways. I have some nice like tonal gray shades in Peace Fleece from Harrisville Designs, which is a small mill up in New Hampshire. And they released this yarn. It's called Peace Fleece. It is it's kind of corny. So the original Peace Fleece, they blended, this was like in the 80s, and they blended wool from sheep from the Soviet Union with sheep from the United States, and it was supposed to be sort of like a Cold War sort of unity thing, which I'm laughing. It's kind of corny, come on. But regardless of like the origin story of this yarn, it is so nice. Like I've heard multiple people on YouTube talking about this yarn recently, which is why I bought some. And it is a blend of Navajo Rambouillet, domestic fine wool, and mohair. So I guess so there's the Rambouillet, the breed specific. I'm assuming domestic fine wool. That's like a blend of like other breeds or whatever. And then the mohair. And I bought these shades of gray because I was on their website and I just could not decide on colors. They have a lot of great colorways. And I finally settled on these 3 shades of gray because I wanted some sort of challenge. I want to do some sort of like low contrast color work with this stuff. Not necessarily stranded color work, it could be intarsia or whatever, but just like color work where like the point is not to like see the patterns and the designs as crisply and clearly as possible, but to like allow like the different like shades of gray to sort of like disguise and make everything sort of blend and bleed and meld together. And this is another one I don't know. I don't have any clue what I want to do with this shit, but I bought like 150 grams of each one of these shades of gray in order to like, so like with that, like I'm not gonna be able to do a sweater or anything, but with that, like yeah, anything from like a small accessory to a large accessory hopefully will be available to me once I do have some more ideas. But I'm excited about this yarn because I'm not I don't normally go for mohair yarns. Like this one's not too bad. It's only what's the percentage? It's only 20% mohair, and it's blended in, which is not as bad as like holding a strand of mohair with another yarn. I definitely don't like doing that. But like blended in, I think it'll be okay. I don't think it's going to give me any problems in terms of itchiness. But yeah, I'm excited about that, and I'm excited. Like I said, I don't know what to do like with this monotone gray. Like I wanted a challenge in terms of colors, and I definitely got it with these. When I opened the bag, like I was excited and confident that I'd be able to come up with something when I was like ordering the yarn, and then when it finally came in and I opened the bag, I'm just like, what am I gonna do with all this gray? Like I just don't know. But right now, I was thinking I don't really want to do stranded color work with this, but maybe like intarsia with just like some like big geometric shapes and then different shades of gray, or maybe even some sort of marling thing where I'm like holding it double, and switching like what I'm holding, what colors I'm holding double with what other colors as the project goes on. But yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to do some thinking about this one too. But very excited about this Peace Fleece, and I'm excited about trying more of Harrisville's yarns because they were the mill that spun Brooklyn Tweed Loft before Brooklyn Tweed stopped selling yarn. And so like if there's anywhere, I think Andrea Mowry mentioned this a couple episodes ago on her Friday podcast. Someone was asking about like replacements or dupes for Brooklyn Tweed Loft now that it's not available. And she mentioned that Harrisville is the place that spun Loft. And so, like, if anyone's going to have a dupe, it's probably going to be them. I don't think this is going to be it. It's definitely, I don't know, I can't tell if this is woolen spun or worsted spun. I'm going to have to do some investigating. It's definitely not woolen spun in the same way that Loft is, though. But they have several other different types of yarn that they make that I'm excited to try and see if I can find something that maybe roughly approximates Loft. But yeah, those are my acquisitions for this episode. Alrighty, well, I think that is going to do it for this episode. If you made it all the way through, thanks for watching. I hope you got something out of this. If you like the video, then please, by all means, give it a thumbs up. And if you enjoy these sorts of videos, feel free to subscribe to the channel. I release these sort of like project diary sort of style videos every couple of weeks when I've got some stuff to show. And then in the interim, from time to time, when I've got tutorials or other ideas for videos, I'll sprinkle in some different stuff here and there as well. But yeah, I guess that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you are all enjoying your holiday season. Like I said, we're just coming off of Thanksgiving here in the United States, and today is the first Sunday of Advent. And I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but I am a huge Christmas person. Very excited to put up my Christmas decorations immediately after I stop filming this. And yeah, I am ready to be in the Christmas spirit. It is time to get out the decorations. It's time to put on the Christmas music. It's time to watch the Christmas movies. Basically, from the first day of Advent until Epiphany in January, I am in Christmas mode, much to the chagrin of everyone around me. But I hope that you have a good next couple weeks, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!